Hey there guys, and welcome to the Happy Toy Factory. Today I'm going to be showing you my newest LEGO creation, which is the Secret Animatronic from Five Nights at Freddy's 2. So before I go into the actual figure itself, I just want to go through a brief, history on who he is. Basically in Five Nights at Freddy's, there's a variety of animatronics, great and small, and each of them inside their costumes contain what is known as a metal endoskeleton, which basically helps them move around and, stay upright and all that. And this is what it looks like in the second game. Now, they do look slightly different in the first game. They're not as rigid. They don't have a rib cage, as you see. They don't have wires all over them and stuff. And they don't have the ears sticking out. However, and I did make one from the first game, but I decided that the second one was slightly better. It was just more fun to build and to show off. And in Five Nights at Freddy's 2, this character is actually kind of like a bonus character, almost like he's kind of like an Easter egg, I suppose. He'll only appear at certain points. He's a very rare character, I suppose you could say. And I managed to grab a few pictures of him, and this is basically what he looks like. So let's get into the figure. So I feel it best to start off with a little look at the articulation. So if we bring him over, I just adjust the light and focus. If we take a look, the jaw can move quite a lot. So you can see it can move like all the way up to here, but it should really just stop about here. The head can move quite well. The waist can turn, however, and like the neck can turn as well. However, in a previous take of this scene, he pretty much crumbled to pieces in my hand, so, I don't want to mess around with that. The arm can move that. It can swivel, knock himself over. The arm can bend, as you can see, that, and the wrist can bend. The waist can also turn, but that also breaks quite easily. The legs can move, as you can see. They can also rotate. Hang on, because he's on a little stand right now. I just want to pop him off. They can rotate, as you see, and the foot can pivot. So he's got a lot of articulation, despite the fact that, he looks quite brittle. But then again, I suppose that articulation is kind of one of the reasons why he looks so brittle. So, I could have got, I probably could have got a lot more detail into him if I actually tried to make him unarticulated, but whenever I make large figures like these, I think it's always fun to make them as if they actually are action figures, And I really like the touch of the articulated jaw, because I've always tried to make, I've tried to make a lot of endoskeletons in the past, most of them Terminators and stuff, but, all of them generally had to have a fixed jaw, whereas this one, I'm glad, can actually move, and it's nice and posable, as well as the neck being able to move, so that's pretty cool. So next, I feel it appropriate to move on to the finer details. So if we take a look here at possibly the most notable part, which is the head. In fact, I'm just going to pop that off because sometimes it can get a bit cumbersome with the body. If we take a look at the head, you can see it's not, it's not too big. It's based around the size of a 2x3 plate with the little ears sticking out. So I suppose maybe like a maybe like a 3x6 plate, even though it doesn't even exist. The eyes, as you can see, are blue with kind of like, half-closed eyelids. This was actually drawn on with a couple of permanent markers. It is possible to do this without the permanent markers, like you can get in the LEGO board games. They have white studs that have holes in the middle, which are very, very good for if you want to do, good-looking eyes with, the pupil and all that. However, I felt it best to do, to actually draw it on because it just looks more realistic, and I always like to add in lots of detail whenever I make these figures. The ears, as you can see, they've got that little indentation because that's kind of how they are in the game. In fact, I might pop a little picture up at the end of the video just to kind of compare the two. And the eyes just kind of stick out on these little studs because they're meant to kind of bulge out like that to actually fit into the costume. and the teeth, as you can see, the top jaw lunges out quite a bit more than the bottom one. I don't think that's meant to be, I don't think that's entirely accurate. However, either or, it still looks good, it still resembles the endoskeleton from all angles, and the little studs here kind of act as teeth, which is quite cool. And then there's like these little spikes here, which I think also add a nice little bit of detail. The ears could move, however, I kind of ran out of pieces on how to actually make them move like that. In fact, I don't think there's actually a piece I could fit in there that would allow this feature. But overall, I think it's still quite good. The articulation is pretty good nevertheless. The neck, as you can see, is just a black skeleton leg. The shoulders are done as kind of like little, kind of like rods sticking out, I suppose, with a little bit of detail with the stud in the middle there. As you can see, he's got a rib cage of 3. I can't remember if it was 3 ribs or 4 ribs. I think it was 3 ribs because I remember looking at a picture while I was building this, so I don't think I would have got that wrong. The arms, as you can see, are just like little faucet pieces, which I do in a lot of the robots that I make, except they're a bit loose. They can't really stay in place. They just flop around like that. The wires going around on the waist, legs, and arms are actually like little rope pieces. If I just show you, they're just these little rope pieces here. I always like to use these as wires. I always think they add a really nice look to the figure because they pretty much do act like wires. They're soft. They're flexible and stuff, and they're a good color. At least they're not like purple or something like that. Well, I suppose that wouldn't look too bad for wires. Anyway, this is along with the eyes possibly the only bit of added customization to a piece I had to make. Where I got like a long silver tube with these kind of ridges, and I actually had to cut it in order to get it in the right length. Doesn't really matter too much because I have this stuff pouring on all over the place, pouring out of my ears. And I actually made a figure of Bender before I made this animatronic, and these pieces were used to make his arms and legs. So it's not all bad, just a bit of recycling done. The arms are quite basic, just a couple plates stuck together, and then the hands are also quite basic. They don't have like any fingers or anything, because I thought that would just look a bit too weird if I had fingers. The hand would look a bit too big. Oh, jeez. The waist the waist is just done with like a few cylinders, a little stud, and a little square at the bottom to kind of give it a bit of shape. You can see there's a bit more of that kind of rope going around for the wires, and it just attaches on at the bottom here. And the legs kind of stick out at the side as they should. The legs are actually done with a really good technique I found out a few years back, where if you get one of these little Technic pins and stick like these wrench pieces in on either end, they actually give a really cool look, mainly for like really skinny builds, for like the kind of endoskeleton, like they're good for like really skinny pieces. And then the legs, just like the arms, are just done with like a few plates, and then the feet are quite basic as well. They're basically exactly like the hands, except with a 2x2 and a 1x2 stuck on. As you can see, he's got a little base, just because he isn't really too good at standing up on his own. That's basically the endoskeleton's detail and articulation. That's basically him in total. I'll just give you a little bit of a 360 look. As you can see, there's just a little bit here that was just something that was done on an earlier customization. Overall, I think it's actually a really good figure. I'm really happy with how it turned out. I'm really happy with the detail that was done. I really like the way how I managed to get like the posable jaw. I really like that. He's got a lot of really nice articulation, as you can see. And if I were to just move him aside and get the lighting sorted out, and there, as you can see, it actually looks quite similar. The eyes maybe should be just a little bit bigger. Perhaps I shouldn't have added that black line around the sides, but I actually did make a animatronic with the costume on before, and I used these eyes, and the black was like the black was a good effect to kind of make it look like there were sockets for the eyes. But overall, I think it's actually a pretty good figure. I'm quite happy with how it turned out. I may be doing a tutorial on how to build this guy. I'm not too sure. It took me quite a while to build him, and it may take a while to rebuild him. But, we'll see where the future leads me. At the moment, I'm a little bit busy with school and all that. I got a lot of exams coming up, so we'll see how that comes. But my Christmas break is in 2 weeks, so I might have a bit of time to do a few videos then. But, it's Christmas. I might do my own thing. But I feel kind of bad for leaving you guys without quite a few videos. But anyway, that's basically it. There's the Five Nights at Freddy's 2 secret animatronic, the Endoskeleton. I hope you've enjoyed. Please remember to rate, comment, and subscribe, and leave a little comment, leaving any suggestions on what I should do next. I'm always open to ideas. I still have to do a tutorial on how to make a Davros voice. I had that request quite a while ago, and I also need to show how to draw a minion, but I'm still a little bit rusty on that. I actually have a tutorial ready on how to draw a opened up Wheatley from Portal 2. I think it's actually quite fun to draw, so hope you guys enjoyed. Stay tuned for my next video, and as always, please rate, comment, and subscribe, and I shall see you next time in a brand new video. Goodbye!